Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Abhilash Chandra from the Department of Business Studies in Vidhyaashram PU College, the Temple of Excellence. Today we'll go with the continuity of business environment. In the last session we know what is business environment. We went with Pepsi and Coke, and then we studied the importance and the features of business environment. Today I'll teach you something more about business environment. So the topic for the day is, yes, the dimensions. What is it? It is the dimension where all business environment concentrate and which are the aspects which influence a business. These are the factors which influence a business. If you just buy and sell, that is not business. I told you, right? Business is all about micro and macro. Today you will understand the macro economy more and the macro environment in detail. So we have the first is the dimension. You have the following dimension for your syllabus. The first thing, if you go over, you have economic environment. What is it? Economic environment, followed by social environment, technological environment, political environment. That means the government is also involved in the factor which influence a business. Then you have legal. Legal means every business should be legal. So there are people who will actually see whether the business is running fairly or there is something called unfair practice. So these are the things you have. So please understand, and I'll tell you how to remember these things, and I give you all the tricks, students. The tricks are, what are the tricks? ACTS, Abhilash Chandra tricks to remember what are the dimensions of business environment. Here we'll understand what is economic environment, social environment, technological environment, political environment, and legal environment. Please remember this. Let's go with this. ESTPL. In your textbooks, or if you go with any of the YouTuber, you will get to know these things, but I'll tell you how to remember it. Have you played chess? If you have played chess, please remember the horse. What exactly the shape of the horse or the step of a horse is. If you imagine, it is always what? It is L step. What is it? It is L step. Please understand. The horse, L step. Legal, so we have legal environment. S, social environment. T is technological environment. E is economic environment, and P is political environment. Remember, ACT, Abhilash Chandra tricks. Here is the Trojan horse, that is your horse, where it goes with the L shape, that is L step. Legal, social, technological, economical, and political. This is how you will remember the dimension of business environment. So what is economic environment, guys? Here you need to understand economic environment influence a business. How does it influence a business? When we talk about economic environment, you are supposed to know there are micro environment and macro environment. In the last session, I told you about micro environment means that individual or that one unit which can be controlled, whereas the economic environment, in the sense you cannot control it because it is a macro environment. Here understand, economy of a country, economy of a company, economy of the individual, it matters in the business. Where economy of the country is used, that means standard of living is more. When standard of living is more, what happens is the buying, purchase, or taking the goods, the commodity or whatever it is, you will actually go with more. That influence a business. That means you have money and you go and you spend it. That is what the economic environment is. Where you have this developing countries, that is India as a developing country, developed nation and underdeveloped nation, where economy plays a vital role. Where example I'll give you, you think about developed nation. In the developed nation, standard of living is increased because their economy is good. Whereas a developing country, you go with it, little standardization is reduced because their economy is something which is less. Let's go with the comparison of the last, that is underdeveloped nation. Think how the business affects there. The way it is, you need to understand, everywhere business is there, but how it goes for the sales. This is what the economic environment is all about. The next thing is social environment. Social environment in the sense the society, how the society is, even the business is affected because of the society. I'll give you example, right? In India, we have the traditional values, moral, ethics, practice, everything we have that affects the business. I'll give you one of the example you need to understand. You people have these big MNC companies like McDonald's. Now, social environment also affects the business. How? Example I'll tell you. In McDonald's, they had two products which is very famous the worldwide, that is hamburger and the hot dogs. Now in India, if you go with that, the same hamburger is not being served, or the hot dog is not served the way it is served in US. The reason is the social environment, that means people. Now here what happens, if you hurt the society, then the society will actually boycott your product. That's why social environment you are supposed to understand. Hamburger and hot dogs are very famous in US, but the same product cannot go in India. The reason is their traditional values and their religious value. That's why social environment is very important. You need to know what the particular country's public or the people they need, and then you render your services. Then you have technological environment. Yes, technological environment in the sense, now everything is going what? Digitalization, because of technology. The way there is no paper, that is paper less work or more. The reason is technology. The more you get updated, the more you get business also get affected, as well as it gets advantage. The reason is the minute public is changing, the minute customer are changing, the minute the government is changing, automatically the business also need to change. I'll give you an example. Earlier in 90s and early 2000, what used to happen is we used to go to the railway station and then book our tickets. And then what used to happen? They used to give you bill and all those things, the ticket, and then you used to come. Now what will happen? You don't need to go to the railway station to actually book your seats. The reason is you can do everything in just a click. That is the technological environment. Now the business also need to change. Now the technology should be introduced in the business. Even this affects the business. I can give you more examples, like you have this Paytm, Google Pay and all those things. Now even the business people need to install those applications because it is a technological environment is changing. People should also change, as well as the business should also change. Next, moving on, you have political environment. Yes, this is a very interesting topic. Political environment. Everyone, whoever goes with foreign direct investment from a different country, they see who are the people who are ruling the government, who are in the ruling, who are in the opposition, who is the prime minister of that particular country, how is their physical policy, and all those things are actually they see and then they invest. And again, I'm telling you, political environment plays a very good role in business environment, because if the political environment is stable, only then the business will happen. If there is instability, right, there is no stability at all, and political environment is very bad in that particular country, usually what happens is business cannot happen because uncertainty is very much. There is not a thing about risk, it is like uncertainty is too much, and that leads to a bad hazard for the business environment. So political environment in the sense, who are the present government and how is that they are running, and how they make the fiscal policy, the industrial policy, the commerce policy, the goods and service, and the income tax slab rate. All these are the which affects the business. And the last one is legal environment. Guys, what is the meaning of business? Buying and selling of goods and services for the main motive to earn profit, and the business should be legal. That is why the government of India has made few of the legal policies, and those people are the one who always check whether the business is running legal or not. You have the special acts of Companies Act 1956. You had what? Companies Act 1956, and later it was revised to 2013. Right, which one? 2013. These are the people who will check whether the company is maintaining their legality or not. Are there any unfair trade practice? Again, you have Indian Income Tax Act, and then you have so many acts which are the people who will see whether you are making a profit which is legal, or you are going with a profit which in a different way called illegal. So all these are the factors which influence a business environment. Usually what happens is, when a businessman starts his business, he don't feel whether it is legal or illegal. He only wants to make profit. That is a time where this unfair trade practice happen. That is where legal environment comes and stops. One more I'll tell you. In this legal environment, what happens is, you know that you are not crossing your limit, but still sometimes the political environment and legal environment, they play a very vital role in the business environment. Example I'll give you. Plastics were banned, right? Plastics were banned. The reason here is, though it was in 2016 or 15, 14, if you go with the late 1990s and the early 2000s, plastic was supposed to manufacture. Because of legal environment, what used to happen is, we have banned completely the plastic, but still in India, across India, you can see the plastics. But what it does, it affects the business. So these are the dimensions of business environment. How to remember it? L step. Go with this: chess, and you have the horse, and that is how you are supposed to go. The horse move with L shape. Wherever it goes with a L shape. Legal, social, technological, economical, and political. This is how you are supposed to remember. Moving on, we have the next topic, that is economic environment in India. How is the economic environment in India? You can actually go with the reform. What is that? The reform, that is 1991 economic reform. That is, we change our economic system. What exactly we change? We went with LPG. What is it? LPG. Please don't get confused with liquid petroleum gas. Don't go with this liquid petroleum gas. Now LPG means liberalization, privatization, and globalization. What is LPG in the economic? That is liberalization, getting a liberty. Privatization, where public sector, more of the public sector is converted into private sector. And the last one is globalization. Now we have opened our window and doors to the other country. That means we can go with export and import with so much liberalization. So I'll tell you more about what exactly liberalization, privatization, and globalization is. If you understand in the nutshell today itself, then I'll tell you guys, till your finals or the master degree, you will actually feel that, array, this is all arams, I can go, I can study, and I can just write in my examination. Base should be proper. Only when the base is proper, then the foundation is proper. That is what it is. LPG, how to remember it? You don't need to remember all those. You need to understand this. LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Don't get confused with liquid petroleum gas. So moving on, we have the first one is liberalization. Liberal, that is, you are getting a liberty. What is that liberty? Please understand that liberalization in India, in the sense we have gone with few of the aspects. I can give you more than 15 aspects where we have gone liberalization, but I'll tell you more about these three things where exactly we got liberalization. Here the first one is, we have abolished. What is it? Abolishing. Abolishing what? Licensing requirement. In most of the industries, licensing was very difficult, guys. Now what is that licensing? We were in the pressure of British before 1947. Before 1947, we were in the pressure of British. What they used to do is they used to influence more tax on the industries, and the procedure of licensing and incorporation was very, very difficult. Here what happened after 1947, that is we got independent and we moved on, our economy was totally different. In the year 1991, our Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao ji, and the finance minister, our Manmohan Singh, they thought that we need to actually reform the economy and we need to actually make liberalization. What is that liberalization? Abolishing. They have abolished licensing requirement, that is too many licensing requirement was there, that they have abolished, except a short list. There are few companies and the industry where licensing is mandatory. You are supposed to go with all the code of conduct and the regulation, but many of the industries now licensing is what? Reduced and abolished. The next thing is removal. See, understand the words abolishing, here removal. What is that they have removed? Restrictions. What is it? Restrictions. Removal of restrictions on the movement of, there was restriction in the movement of goods and service, that is you are importing and exporting, there was a restriction. Here what happened? We have removed that restriction. The barriers are now not there. That is what is called, we have opened the windows and the doors for whom? For the others, so that even they can come as well as even we can actually go, where the tax is reduced. What is it? Tax is reduced. Here, removal of restrictions on the movement of goods and service. Goods and service, right? Goods and service. Please remember this. The next one is freedom. Please understand. Abolished we have done, we have removed, now it is freedom. What is that freedom? Please understand. Freedom, okay? Freedom in fixing the prices. What is it? As a manufacturer or a retailer, a wholesaler, all those people, they had that restrictions and everything. Now what has happened is we can go with freedom in fixing the prices. I can fix the price of my products. If the demand is more, I'll go with more pricing. If the demand is less, I'll minimize the pricing. That is what I have all the authority for fixing that. But still you have something called MRP. What is this MRP? That is maximum retail price. After that you can't actually go with it. Now you need to understand, here also there is something restriction where the people cannot go cross something like that. Example, a pencil is there. Now you can't go with a pencil for 1 crore rupees. Now there is something called unfair trade practice. That is what it is. But still, freedom in fixing the prices of goods and services. These are the few things. And one more, liberalization, in the sense liberalizing in the tax, liberalizing in import and export. We call that as the EXIM. What is it? EXIM. That is export and import. Export and import. There is liberalization. So on, we have so many kind of liberalization. Moving on. Privatization. Privatization. Please don't get confused with public company, public sector, private sector, right? Privatization means there are two aspects in the sectors. That is, one is public sector and one more is private, right? Private sector. What is this private sector and public sector? Please understand this. When you call something as a public sector, that means here you have 51% and more is the power in the hand of government. Whose hand? In the government. We call that as public sector. That means here what happens is, private sector means the power, that means again 51%. Why 51%? That means majority. What is it? Majority. Here more than 51% of the power is in the hand of individual or a company or few of the people, that is the partners. So then what happens? That particular sector is called private sector. But still here also government interference is there. The reason is the government is always, they'll check political environment, legal environment, they always check the business. There is an effect for the business. Here what happens? Public sector is there. That means only government is there. No, even private people are also there. But the power is in the hand of whom? The government. That is called public sector and private sector. Before independence, what used to happen? The British used to take care about all the sectors. Later, after independence, that in 1947, we had a strong government which used to think about everybody. That is, we are by the people, for the people, all those things. Later in 1991, they got to know that the government cannot control or they cannot manage all the sectors. Then they decided, let us actually go with privatization. That means give few of the sectors, few of the industries, few of the field to the private people, so that there will be something called increase in productivity and innovation. That is why the public sector was converted into private sector. Few of the public sector, not all the public sector. What is it? Few of the public sector were converted to private sectors. Example I'll give you, students, here. Understand the comparison between private sector and public sector. We have our railway, right? That is the Indian Railway. It is actually the biggest employment kind of a sector where many people are there, like crores together people are there. See the comparison, right? Now it is a public sector. The railway is in what? Public sector. Government is controlling it. Though it is statutory, it is a separate kind of a thing. Government is controlling. How are the environment or the ambience or the places of railway station, how it is maintained? And let's go with the airport. Now airport, in that you have all the private sectors have been introduced. That means government is also there as well as private people are also there. See the environment of railway station and the airport. You will get something called, yes, here airport. Cleanliness is maintained. It is not that the railway station and the people will not maintain, even they have maintained beautifully. But go with a comparison, then you will understand public sector is better or the private sector is better. Again, everywhere you have a boon as well as you have a bane. In railway station, what happens is the ticket rates, just go with it. It is for the public, right? That's why they are going with. Understand the airport, the tickets, how exactly it is. The more, in the sense, you need more services, you need to pay more. But in the public sector, what happens? They are giving you services for a lesser price. This is what the privatization is. Please understand this. The new set of economic reform aimed at giving greater role to whom? To the private, right? Greater role to the private sector in the national building. That is, the nation need to move, in the sense the national need to actually go for a increased productivity or the development, then you need to give to private sector. Building process and reduced role of whom? Public sector. They have reduced the role of public sector. In the next we have globalization. What is the word? Globalization. In your 6th standard, 7th standard, you have actually seen this globe, and many of you have purchased it. Globe, in the sense the entire world is there. All the countries are prescribed. Here globalization is also that. That means single market. In the single market, you can go with everywhere. That means you can buy from any country and you can sell for any of the products to any of the country. But here what happens? It depends on, again, political environment. Now we are in the state of war with anybody. Then what happens is the import and export will stop. The reason is, in the dimension of business environment, we have seen economic environment, political environment, even that will affect. Here the thing is globalization. What does globalization means? Globalization means integration. What is it? Globalization means integration. Integration of what? Of the various economies. Various economies of whom? Of all the countries. Economy of the world. Economy of the world, leading towards the emergency of cohesive global economy. That means globalization, in a nutshell, if I tell you, the entire world economy will actually meet in particular point. That is called globalization. I can sell my product anywhere, as well as anybody can sell their product in our country. The things are, what are the things we actually go with globalization? First thing is licensing of imports. Now before going and selling your product to any of the country, we need to take license from our government. That is, I want to be an importer or an exporter. Then they will give us the license. I told you about this word called EXIM. export and import. You have a special act of exempt. In that exempt, you will understand that our government should also give you a license saying that yes, you can be the importer or the exporter. Later what happens, they will issue this particular slip saying that yes, this is what it is, you can go for your business, as well as they'll get licensing from the other country. That is, can we have the friendly relationship, business relationship? Then again, they'll also say yes, we can go forward, and then the business goes. That's why licensing of imports are very important. Next, you have tariff restriction. What is it? Tariff restriction. What is this tariff? That is a slab. Tariff means what? Slab. Slab of, it can be a tax, it can be your pricing, it can be your any kind of a monetization. Your tariff restrictions means whatever we feel like we can actually fix the price is what it is. But when we are exporting and importing, we need to always go with the rules and regulation of our country as well as the rules and regulation of the country where we are doing the business. So there is a restriction in the tariff. And the last one is quantitative restrictions. Quantitative restriction, that means there is a slab, how much you can import and how much you can export. Please understand, here again legal environment will come. Now if I go with something like this, I'll export few of my product to US. Now there is a slab saying that you can only go with this particular quantity, so that what happens is you can go and do your business, as well as there is a fair practice. But if I go with like this, I have taken 1 ton kind of a permission, and I'm actually exporting 20 tons of something. That means there is something called illegal which is going. Now globalization is there, open window, open your doors to the entire world, but still you have some restriction, that is quantity. You need to get approval, only then you can go for it. That is what it is. And here what happens is the fair practice is maintained. Though you are open to everybody, access is too much, but still fair practice is there. Please go with all these points, understand LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. Only through LPG you have got so many companies to our country. Like example, I'll tell you, Hyundai, they came to India in the early 90s. Then you had Mattis Daewoo company which came to India, and so on. Our company has also gone to many of the countries. It's all because LPG, the economic reform which was done by P.V. Narasimha Rao and the finance minister Manmohan Singh. So hope you have understood the dimensions of business environment and the economic reform of 1991. If you have any doubt, you can message, comment, and you can call us. Vidhyaashram is always for you. Thank you so much, students. I'll see you when I see you.